To drive or not to drive? That is what we'll be discussing next on Connecting Our Community. Please stay tuned. Hi, I'm Pat Shoemaker. Welcome to Connecting Our Community. Our guests tonight are Sean Brennan, the Mobility Manager with Montgomery County Aging and Disability Services, and Denise Israel from the Montgomery County Department of Transportation. Welcome to the program, both of you. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to start right off the bat by what I sort of teased, which is to drive or not to drive. As we get older, that seems to be a problem. I was talking to somebody at my office today, and she said her mother-in-law is 84, and it's kind of, do we let her drive? Do we stop her from driving? This seems to be a huge debate. What are your thoughts on this?
It is a huge debate. I think one of the things is it's not an age, really, that to determine whether or not someone drives. It's really about ability, health, so forth. And a lot of times it's not to drive or not to drive. It may be under what circumstances can you drive and for how long.
And who decides that?
Well, I mean, we're in a community, right? So we can say, you know, oh, the individual, but an individual has family and friends, and when they observe something that makes them uncomfortable, you know, maybe it's not just the 84th birthday party, but it's mom just ran into the curb and acted like nothing happened. You know, observations, things like that sometimes will cause concern. Sometimes it could be what you observe in someone when you're not even in the car. Someone's being slow to react to something or not processing very quickly, and then you might think, how does that go when she's driving? This is a concern.
That's a really good way to put it. So if you see your mother or mother-in-law, whatever, driving down the street, you're waiting at the house, and you see the person driving, is there something that you should say, uh-oh, this is a trigger? Is there like a quantitative thing? She's done this 5 times in a row. It seems to be a pattern. Or she banged into the curb. I've never seen her do that before. I mean, what would be sort of push you over the edge to bring up the conversation, and then how do you bring up the conversation?
Well, that's a toughie, you know, but it's also lots of conversations, right?
It is.
It's not probably going to be a one-time thing.
All the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that adult children might notice is that they start getting less comfortable with the idea of their children being driven by their parents. So when that happens, when, you know, oh, they won't let me drive the grandchildren anymore, and that might not even be a conversation, they just might notice, they haven't asked me to pick up so-and-so from practice in a while. Oh, maybe there's a reason for that. You know, there's some research that says that people will live 6 to 10 years beyond their ability to drive, typically.
Okay.
The 6 years is more for men and the 10 years is more for women, but that's a study that was published in the American Public Health Association journal some time ago. The way I look at it is if we can accept that as a truth, that if we are lucky enough to live so long that we outlive our ability to drive, then okay, let's accept it and let's start planning for it.
Absolutely.
And so that brings me to you, Denise, with the Department of Transportation. Is the Department of Transportation in on this aging mobility discussion? Are there things that are being done so that for that group, whatever the age might be, whatever the title might be, that for that group who no longer do drive, there's something being planned or there's something already in place that people can take advantage of?
Oh, very much so. We are very focused on having senior-friendly or age-friendly transportation. And some of the things we have are classes to teach people how to use our local systems, the Metro system. We encourage our seniors to get senior smart trip cards so that they can travel around, without having that worry of driving or.
And what would a senior smart trip, I mean, is that card something different than a regular smart
It
trip
is,
card?
yes, it is. Actually, it actually gives them quite a discount. On the Metro Rail, they're always billed half of the peak rate, and it gives them on the local buses, Ride On, as well as Metro. They're billed half fare off during peak hours, and they're also can ride. Let's say for Ride On, you can ride from 9:30 to 3 p.m. and that's free with the senior smart trip card. And then they can ride from 8:30 to 4 on Saturdays. The 9:30 to 3 is Monday through Friday. So
And
it's
is
quite a
that-
savings.
Yeah, is that for the state or just Montgomery County?
Oh, this is for strictly talking about Montgomery County.
Well, that's fantastic. Wow. Do you have to do anything special to get the special senior card?
It's really easy to acquire. They go to the library, any of the local libraries. All they have to have is proof of age and $2.
Wow.
And they can get their senior smart trip card.
And is it just lifetime, or does it expire every 6 months? Or?
No, there's no expiration, and they can load them online. They can put money on online or at a commuter store or at one of the stations. But it's for the metropolitan area. I want to stress that. Yeah, for the metropolitan area.
Yeah, that's great. And what other things is the Department of Transportation planning?
We have we have classes, as I said, that will just get out and teach them how to actually get on the train. They actually learn how to read the route cards for the buses, and we also have just programs that just make transportation easier for them. We have cab programs for lower income riders that will give them quite a savings. Like at the lower end of income, they can spend $10.50 and get $120 worth of cab rides for a month. And we just got a grant from the Council of Governments that we're very excited about, because we think it's going to expand our ability to give transportation to seniors and persons with disabilities, and that's going to actually cut that $10.50 in half to $5.25.
Wow.
Right. Yes.
That's
Yes, it's over
fantastic.
$500,000 grant, and that's for 2 years.
Wow.
It starts in July of this year, and we're going to try to reapply for that grant, to make it a 4-year grant.
That's fantastic. Now, we're talking about older people, senior citizens. The terminology is in flux, as they say. But what age does this encompass? I mean, if I were 21, which of course I am, but wait a second, you guys are laughing too hard.
Yes.
Anyway, so can a 21-year-old say, I want to get this special trip card? Or, I mean, is there a very hard and fast age, or is it?
Well, one of the things that makes things a little challenging is sometimes there are different ages for different programs. So for the discounted bus and the free bus, it's 65.
65.
And for call and ride, if what makes you eligible besides income is
your age, yes.
it's 65 also.
Okay.
But you can be eligible for call and ride if you have a disability.
And what is call and ride?
That's the discounted taxi
The
program.
taxi service we were just talking about. Yes.
So
18 to 64. You would, if you have a disability, you can use that program. You automatically go into the senior program when you turn 65.
Okay. So 65 seems to be the golden number?
It is
for
pretty
most
much. It
things?
is pretty much.
But there are some programs
that have 60,
60 and
And
55.
yes.
For example, Montgomery County provides free transportation to its senior centers. And the senior center age is 55.
55, yes.
And then there's a nonprofit organization that the county supports called Senior Connection. It is the biggest provider of volunteer transportation in the county. And to be eligible for services, they're 60.
60, yes, yes.
Isn't there any way that everybody can sort of get together and say,
Well-
okay, we're going to do it at this age?
Well, we have made some strides because it's mainly 65, and there were some adjustments to get there.
Right.
But the 55, we mentioned the rec centers. We were saying things that we can do for people not to drive is a really great benefit because they will pick you up at your closest rec, they'll give you transportation, I should say, from the center to the center that's closest to you and take you. And it's really a great service, and people take advantage of that.
Yeah. And that's for people with disabilities as well as 55-year-olds?
This is for
60-year-olds?
seniors. This is for
55
seniors.
plus.
This is 55 plus. Mhm,
Okay. And no matter where you are in the county, you can take advantage of that?
Yeah,
Or is it,
It's
no?
No.
You have to live within
Yeah,
a certain
at
distance.
from your center,
Oh.
your senior center.
Okay. And how would people know about these options?
Good question. I mean, one of the things that we have that's super comprehensive and that people can get online is this Transportation Network Directory. So it talks about everything from ride-on to volunteer transportation to senior center
Absolutely.
transportation to discounted taxi to things like if you have a disability and you need to get to the airport, how can you do that? Or to Camden Yards, or just, it's like
Oh.
60 pages, got lots of details, Transportation Network Directory online.
Yeah. And so you can get, if you are at a certain age, whatever that age may be, I've lost track, but if you are at a certain age and you want transportation to not just your local rec center, but something like Camden Yards or FedEx Field or any place you want to go?
You can get information about it.
yes.
Oh.
We don't necessarily have a service, one service that does everything. There are multiple services.
Yes, there are.
Oh.
So 311 is one option, of course, to call for information about transportation, but Connect a Ride is another program that Montgomery County pays Jewish Council for the Aging, and you can call and individually have a conversation where you talk about your income, your age, where you live, where you want to go.
It's
And
personal. Yeah, it's personalized.
Okay.
So it's an transportation information service. So it works out really well. You can call them, and they can, they look at volunteer organizations, private and public, to
Okay.
try to help you.
And I have to stop you right there because believe it or not, we've come to halfway point, so we need to break for some public service announcements.
Okay.
But we will be back to
quick.
speak more about all the services for transportation options in Montgomery County. Please join us after the break.
I'm Alejandro Escobedo. Music has always been my life, but that was almost taken away from me by hepatitis C. Thankfully, I received treatment and stopped cancer before it started. Yes, cancer. Most people don't know there's a link between certain viruses and cancer. I didn't know, but I do now, and so should you. That's why I've partnered with the Prevent Cancer Foundation. The 3 most common viruses linked to cancer are human papillomavirus, or HPV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. Every year, more than 27,000 men and women are diagnosed with a cancer caused by HPV, and up to 65% of all liver cancers are caused by Hep B or C. These cancers are preventable. Getting screened, vaccinated, and treated isn't scary, but cancer is. For more information, visit thinkaboutthelink.org. Together, we can stop cancer before it starts.
Hi, welcome back to Connecting Our Community. We're having a really fascinating, I think, discussion about transportation and other options for senior citizens that I call it, that nobody else wants to call it, so I apologize. But people who are my age, let's put it that way. So we were talking about some of the different options of information and things like that, and you wanted to bring up, is this the information about how to drive or not drive?
Well, a couple things I want to bring up. One is that it makes a lot of sense to experiment with the options, like taxi, like bus, or for example, Uber and Lyft and companies like that and the services that they provide while you still drive.
Oh,
Get comfortable, grab a friend and say, let's take the bus and go downtown and see what that's like. when, you know, the stakes are low because you still drive, but it's like an adventure. The more experience you get with these options, the more comfortable you are, and then when the day comes that you really don't have a choice anymore about driving, you're already comfortable with the
That's a
alternative.
great
It really is.
idea.
Yeah, we do encourage that.
Yeah.
It's a very good idea.
Oh, that's a great idea.
In the meantime, because most people do want to drive as long as they possibly can, there are a number of ways that you can kind of stay sharp as far as driving. One is stay in good physical shape, you know, and get your eyes tested, get your body tested, make sure you have good reflexes, you're flexible, you can see behind you, you can reach the pedal. If you might need to make an adjustment to your car, if you're shrinking a little bit, use a cushion. There are programs called Car Fit that happen periodically in the county where volunteers will help look at you in your car and make recommendations about, oh, you might want to adjust your mirrors a little bit so there's not so much of a blind spot, or, oh, you're a little close to that steering wheel, you don't want that airbag to hurt you. So that's one program people can look out for. AARP has a smart driver course, and you can go, and it's a 3-hour thing for about $20, $25. It's offered at the senior centers and the libraries quite often. Just get a brush up on the rules of the road. You might learn some things that have changed. For example, about the airbags. I mean, a lot of us learned to drive before there were airbags.
Yes.
But the fact that there are
Before there were cars.
driving buggies. But you know, it used to be that you were supposed to hold your, you know, a 10 and 2. But now they really encourage you to bring it down
Oh.
because you don't want your arms hurt if the airbag goes. And there are other little things like that. One of the things is very exciting about car technology is how many safety features manufacturers are adding all the time. You know, I'm in love with my backup camera that's in my car, but there are a lot of things, lane departure warnings, there's even automatic braking in some cars. So people might really want to think about, if I'm going to keep driving, maybe I should invest in the car that has the most safety features. The MVA in Maryland created this Maryland's Resource Guide for Aging Drivers that I want to encourage people to check out. They can Google it, and it's got all kinds of things. Things like warning signs, like we talked about earlier, that someone might be having a hard time driving. If you really are concerned about someone and you want to make a referral to the MVA for them to perhaps do some kind of an examination to see if someone should still drive, how to do that is in here. Medical conditions that automatically you should be thinking about, information in here. There's also information about getting a driver rehabilitation assessment. Perhaps a therapist could say, you know what, given your situation, you can keep driving,
I was
but you
gonna
might
recommend that.
need
Absolutely.
a few adaptations to your car. You know, there's strategies to keep people on the road, and MVA wants people to stay on the road. They really do. They're not in a hurry to get people off the road. One of the reasons is that when people lose the ability to drive, unfortunately, a lot of times, because they haven't practiced with the alternatives, they do suffer more isolation, and then their health can decline because of that. So it's really worth spending some time, first of all, staying fit, staying informed about traffic, explore the alternatives, and think about where you live, because some places have more transportation options than others.
Those are all such good points
They are.
that I never would have thought of doing at all. But if you find that you have either yourself or an older person around you who you think shouldn't be driving anymore, do you have any thoughts on how to bring up the subject and maybe broach in a positive way instead of saying, you're not driving anymore?
I can say that AARP has a very good seminar online, We Need to Talk, that will take you through how to broach that subject with your loved one. And I would recommend that. I also would recommend that you get some of the options in advance. You know, look at what their options will be, you know, prior to having the talk with them.
That's
so
an
you
excellent
can
idea.
give them some, you know, positive alternatives
Yeah.
to driving.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Just be prepared and say, well, you know, you could call a ride, or you could do some of these.
Exactly.
These are all great ideas. I hope everybody out there is taking notes, or they'll watch the show many times to write down all the possibilities. But on sort of the opposite side of that, there are all these ability to call people and ask things. But what about the volunteers who need to do these things? Are there volunteer opportunities if you wanted to get into that part of it?
So glad you mentioned that, because for some people, they may not qualify for the discounted taxi. They may not live close to a bus line. They may have real difficulty moving their bodies, and so having a friendly person to come to their home, or at least meet them outside, let them get in their car, take them to their medical appointment, or to the grocery store, or to a friend's house. I mean, that can make all the difference, and especially when you remove the cost element.
Yeah.
And luckily in Montgomery County, we have more and more organizations that are forming that are providing volunteer transportation. But what we find is that when people hear about this, then they're very excited and they would like to take advantage of it. So the need is outpacing the volunteers. So would love to have folks consider this. It's a really neat volunteer opportunity because you get to know people really well. You have time in the car. And it's very flexible. So most of these organizations use web-based scheduling. So you can just sort of see, who needs a ride and where are they going this week? Look at your schedule and sort of figure out, I think I could do this one and this one. It's very flexible. You're not locked in. Oh, darn, I committed 4 hours of every Monday for the rest of my life. No, you just sort of. So the Senior Connection is probably the largest provider of transportation. They provide volunteer transportation throughout the county, or some of the other organizations might just focus on a neighborhood or a zip code. So we did want to share the information about Senior Connection, which is their phone number is 301-962-0820. I haven't memorized it yet, but also you can Google Senior Connection Montgomery County, or I think it's seniorconnectionnmc.org is their website. And basically what happens is folks fill out, an application. They have to agree to a criminal and a driver background because it's really important to keep people safe. People are vulnerable,
Yes.
and good service starts with safe service. But normally, people don't have a problem doing that, and then after that, off they go. They accept the trips that they want to take, and it makes such a difference. People appreciate it so much to have this kind of help.
Oh, that's really great. And I think if you want to see how the services work, maybe if you're a younger person, start out by being a volunteer for these, and then by the time you get to need the service yourself, you've been a volunteer, you know what it's all about, and maybe you're not as nervous about giving over your keys because
And maybe
you're
you
comfortable.
feel like more comfortable, like you earned it. You earned
Yeah.
some free rides. 'Cause
There you go.
'cause
That's
some people
right.
are really hesitant to ask for help. They feel uncomfortable. But these volunteers are eager to get to work,
Well, that's great. Well, I hope that a lot of people will volunteer because I think it's such a nice thing to do. It's an easy thing. You probably don't need a whole lot of training if you've ever driven or.
Yeah, and I mentioned in training, I wanted to say that they do offer training, the Connection does, and they also help with the liability insurance for the trip. So sometimes people are concerned about that, very much concerned.
Yeah, I
So,
didn't think about the
know,
liability, of course. Yeah.
So
That's
I
great.
think
And
that
do you
makes it more
find
appealing.
that if I were going to volunteer to drive someone, but I have let's just say a 1960 Volkswagen, would that stop me? I mean, do you want people with a certain type of vehicle or a certain, like a larger vehicle or maybe an SUV instead of a car to make
It's an
things
interesting
easier?
question. I have not heard of any of the organizations putting any kind of requirements
I
on the
haven't
vehicle.
either. I haven't either.
Okay.
I haven't either.
So everybody, you have a little souped-up Mustang, go for it.
Yes.
Some kind of a convertible, come in and volunteer.
Yeah, people will really want to be in your car.
Yeah,
that would be
they'll
very
fight.
nice.
Ooh, goodness. Well, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to be sure to mention or to go over again to make sure that people get it?
I know for me, I would want to make sure people understood that there are a lot of options, and if they don't remember any of the various programs in particular, they can call 311. That's the county's information number. It's easy to remember. And they can just say, I want to learn about transportation options. I'm an older adult, or I have a disability, or whatever the situation is. I need alternatives. And they will either answer the questions themselves, send them to the Department of Transportation, or maybe to Connect a Ride. They can make that direct link over to the Connect a Ride service, where folks can dive in and give you that individualized advice about what's out there, help you fill out applications, et cetera.
That's great. And is 311 just for transportation issues, or is it information about anything in the county at all?
Yes,
Yep, anything in the county, sure. From how do I apply for food stamps to explain the recycling and when it comes, and or
Wow.
can I request a special pickup? I have this enormous canoe I have to get rid of or something like that. So yeah, it's one number people have to remember.
That is great. And
Yeah,
Denise, did you want to?
the one thing I wanted to mention is we were talking about how would they know about the services. You can go online to Montgomery County Senior Services, and there is like a one-pager, well, it's two-sided, and it gives you explore your transportation options, and it gives you a little overview on the services that we offer. It's very helpful, and gives you the telephone numbers and the web pages for those services.
Well, I want to thank you both so much, Sean and Denise. It's really been a very interesting half hour. It has flown right by. If you have any more questions, or for people with disabilities and adults 50 or older, go to www.montgomerycountymarylandmd.gov/TND. The Villages also has a team of volunteers, and they will be more than happy to help you. And again, I want to thank you both for being here so much. Please join us next time on Connecting Our Community, and please volunteer. And if it's you, look into some of these ways to get around without driving yourself. Thank you so much.